We're back.
Where do you want to start?
I want to start by seeing what nonsense you're drinking this week. I think I know what that is just by the colour.
Okay, so here's the deal. I think everybody now knows I drink the Monster 0 Calorie White most of the time. I could not find it at the convenience store that's down below our podcast studio.
The horror.
So I had to walk across the street, brave traffic. And if you don't know Dubai traffic, walking across like a multi-lane highway.
Yeah, we're thankful to see you here.
Without dividers or sidewalks, this is how much I wanted it. Mm-hmm. So I go to the other convenience store that I find. No Monster, but they have C4, which I am known to drink sometimes, and it is Arctic snow cone.
No, it's
so
not.
I don't know if
No, it's not.
I don't know if this is going to taste the same as white, but I'm just going to hope. So we're going to go for it now. If I can open this.
God, these things make my teeth hurt just thinking about it.
It does not. It
does not taste like Arctic snow cone. You surprise me.
So it does have a bit of a snow cone, like what I would remember as a snow cone flavor. I do think it is their version of Monster White. So you've been moving houses.
I have.
You're back. How was moving houses in Dubai? Is that relatively easy?
Do you know what it is? We're very lucky here in that we can find lots of workforce labour at relatively low cost. So they do all the hard work for you. What they do is they pack all your things up for you and put them into boxes and then move them to the new house so you have a house full of boxes. So now we're going through that horrible task of unpacking everything and putting it away and trying to find the things that we need first and the things we don't need last, and that never works. But no, it's all right.
What do you find you've missed? Like whenever I've moved and I have boxes, there will always be something, right? I have my computer with me, but then I'll be like, oh, there was this book that I was reading that I want to go find, and now I don't know where it is, and there's 30 boxes.
So we've moved a lot in the last 5-10 years. There was one point where we've moved 10 times in 5 years, so we're quite good at moving. So I learned very early on to keep hold of the things that you're going to need and take those with you personally. So like my computer, I moved myself, my laptop, all my work stuff. All of that I had control of, and that's fine. The one thing I was missing was, ironically, the power bank next to my bed where everything plugs into. That got packed somewhere. It took us a week to find that. But.
See, I feel like even though I have very little possessions, when I would pack things, there is always something like that I would forget. And those little things can drive me nuts. It is something lately I've been trying to reduce even more, trying to get rid of even more in my house. I've been looking at more people who... I don't want to say have a Buddhist lifestyle, but have the more like I live out of my backpack or I live out of carry-on. And I think there's something just, I don't know, at the moment in my life attractive about that of, how do I fit everything into a small, into a small carry-on bag that I can then move around.
So my life fits in a 20-foot container, pretty much. Sometimes it goes a bit over. That's a big, big container.
That does sound like a big container.
But I know I can get my life in that. And I think slightly more when we moved out to Dubai. I hope we're about 20-foot container size again now. And ironically, even after saying that, I completely agree with you on this. If I had to give up 90% of my stuff now, I probably could. It would just be the cost and effort of replacing it. But let me tell you, the one thing that I forgot I did miss, which is ridiculous, is I have a weighted vest. Now, my weighted vest started off as 20 kilograms, and I put it up to about 45 kilograms.
You have a custom-made weighted vest, which is insane.
Which is loads of iron bars, basically, inside the pockets. I took the sandbags out, replaced them with iron bars. It's 43, 45 kilograms, something like that. I couldn't find it. I'm like, hang on. My wife can't pick that up. If I pick it up, I know I picked it up. So it's somewhere. No one's moved it. It's going to be somewhere in this house. I'm like, where is it? And we looked everywhere and couldn't find it. And I messaged the mover saying, you must remember this, because I'm pretty sure you'd notice when you tried to pick it up. It's quite heavy. They're like, oh, it's outside. And there was a box. They'd wrapped it in some Amazon cardboard and then wrapped it round and round in plastic tape. And there was a box in a corner outside that everyone had just walked past. I remember pushing it at one point going, oh, it's got some weights in it. But it was such a weird shape. I unpacked it, and there's the vest. I think it's still outside at the moment.
I remember in Amsterdam, I ordered a 20-kilogram kettlebell.
Yeah, okay.
And I always feel sorry for the delivery people who have to bring this up, right? Because it was in a small box, and you can just see the person who's like, I don't want to carry this. And I wouldn't want to carry it, right? I use it for swings, but like, I don't want to carry it upstairs or carry it down a hallway or something. Anyway, not our main topic, but good to know what's been going on. AI this week. Where do you want to start? Because I have a few topics.
Yeah, I've got three.
Okay.
I was thinking about this. One thing we could do is sort of what 3 words and give us 3 words to springboard off in future. So my 3 words to try out this week.
Wait, was that from the map thing that you got that from?
Well, I thought of a couple of words, and I thought of the what 3 words, and I thought, well, I can add one more and just steal the map idea, and we'll do what 3 words.
So I talked, for people who don't know, I ran a podcast years and years ago with a friend, Guus, out of Amsterdam. And he would bring up that website, like what 3 words, and I haven't heard anybody say it since. No. And it's a wonderful callback to the old podcast. So
okay, nice.
So take it away. Take it away.
So my 3 words this week, I would say as triggers for you, see where you go with them, are courtesy, they are foundations, and they are the obvious one, which is triggered off your TikTok link you sent me earlier, which is dopamine. That one made me enraged. So let's start with that one.
Okay, dopamine is a good one because I have a kickoff for that as well. I had sent you an article that actually, Guus, the same guy, the same 3 words guy, sent me this morning, and it's about a product coming out of Y Combinator.
Yep.
That is an IDE, so an integrated development environment that is, AI like Cursor or whatever, V0. So you write your prompts, it generates your code. While it's doing its generation, it will show you like TikTok videos or YouTube shorts or these things with the whole idea that it is showing you brain rot while it's doing its processing so that you don't get distracted by longer term other tasks. And part of me is like, this is so horrible. It's amazing.
I'm so annoyed by this. I'm so annoyed by it.
Because and the idea, the person, the founder, when they were being interviewed, people thought it was like a joke. And the person was like, no, the idea is that all you need is like 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, as opposed to turning your mind to another task. Just let your mind sort of rot away with TikTok, and then you can come back to things quicker. It does sound like a Silicon Valley sort of farce. It is interesting. My thing on why when you said dopamine, I kicked off on that. I take the metro here, the Dubai metro, every week, and I just notice more and more the behaviors of people as they are walking. Not when they're sitting, but when you're walking through the metro station. And I just notice in the last years more and more people just looking at their phone as they are walking.
Yeah.
And this isn't for directions. This is, I can see they're like watching TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And all I can think is like, this is, 60 seconds between whatever you checking in and you walking. But the idea that you have to be glued to your phone as you are walking, not even paying attention to your surroundings. Like, dystopian futures are already here, buddy.
Yeah, and it is just dopamine chasing. That's exactly what it is. So I'll tell you why I'm really, really annoyed with the TikTok IDE idea is because it just is so fundamentally flawed in terms of how we work as humans that I can't believe that someone wouldn't get that. So the reason why I say that is that the first concept is we don't context switch very well. So when we move between tasks, it's cognitively very expensive for us to focus on one thing, switch, and then focus on something else, and then keep switching back. So when we do that, we automatically drop our efficiency. If you pair that with the fact that the reason why people use things like TikTok and Facebook, doom scrolling, short videos, is because they're chasing dopamine. But what you're doing when you're coding is you're literally chasing dopamine just by coding. So you write a line of code, you see it work, you get a little dopamine fix. You prep for the next one, you get a dopamine fix because it's like writing lists. It's like project managers delivering projects with lists. You get dopamine triggers from that. So what you're doing is you've got an activity which provides you with dopamine hits, and you're taking people out of that or within the same environment, giving them a way to do it in a different, easier way, rather than keep them focused on the task at hand. It's why vibe coding is such a terrible thing, is because if you give the job to the AI to do with just a prompt, let it do its thing while you watch TV, what you get out is generally misconnected crap. Whereas if you use it in bite-sized, snippet-based approach, where you're giving it small prompts, you're thinking about it, you're even thinking about something related to it whilst it's doing that, and you're connecting them together yourself, you get the dopamine hits from fixing little problems, you get the AI as an accelerator, and it's a brilliant way. You take people out of that and get them watching TikTok, and you destroy it all.
I'm going to throw this back at you because
I'm so mad.
Okay, so what you just said, we're not good at context switching. This is why I sort of think this is a brilliant idea. because you're not really moving on to another task that requires a high cognitive load. You are literally just going to something that's like, ooh, pretty colors, and then you switch back. Right. And so is that cost of switching lower?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be open-minded to that. I don't know.
And look, like, do I agree with this? Do I think it's a wonderful idea? No. But do I think it is at least something to explore?
Sure.
Maybe. Like, one of the things I'll notice is, yes, if I'm waiting for something to load or get done and I switch over to another task, I'll get engrossed in that task. I'll forget the first task. And
but how many times do you watch? I think you watch short video. I watch short videos, but I tend to watch them at night. But how often do you watch this stuff during the day? Because I don't.
I have my selected times.
Yeah.
So I watch it, and this is horrible, but I watch it like in bed at night.
I'm the same.
Because it is a way for me to sort of turn off my brain, which I think is the exact point that person is trying to make. So it feels like it's farcical, but in a way that you're like, I sort of get what you're going for, but it is so ridiculous. Going back to old podcasts, it reminds me of the Juicero. Did you know this?
No.
It was like a super expensive device that you would put it on your kitchen counter, and you would order these bags of like fruit and vegetables and stuff like that. You would load it in the Juicero, and it would squeeze the bags for you. And somebody figured out eventually, if you just cut open the juice bag, it was like already done.
Right.
And so the whole device and the service was just stupid.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that you're like,
That's hilarious.
yes, it's sort of like brilliant until you realize how dumb it is.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I sort of feel like, isn't that the way that we all move forward? Is you sort of have to explore the entire space to figure out what the actual working space is. And there was an article I read, and I forget the exact name of it. It came out of another podcast called Dithering, and it was talking all about bubble economics. And because everyone's like, it's an AI bubble, it's an AI bubble. Yeah, sure. And the whole point was like, it is, but the only way that we get anywhere with any sort of evolution of technology or, science or anything like that is you have to have a bubble, because you have to have this just sort of over dramatic spending in order to make these Moore's laws leap.
Yeah, I agree.
And I hadn't heard it put that way, but I thought, yeah, actually that makes a lot of sense.
I agree.
And they go back to like, look at the last bubble, .com boom or other things where it's like, yeah, like you needed all of that, the .com boom to sort of propel us forward, and then things can reset. And then you get the next bubble to propel us forward, and then things reset. But you have to have these in order to make forward momentum. And I think the more that I get settled in my career, the more that I see the positives of everything, where a lot of people will say, oh, well, that's stupid. Or, again, like that IDE. You're like, yes, but these are the things that we sort of need to make forward momentum.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that's a good way of putting it, because when you think about the fact that the stuff I read this week was that the AI bubble is predicted to be about 17 times the size of the .com bubble. And as I said, we're still using the internet. The internet's still a big pervasive part of everything we do now, even more than we could possibly have imagined in the early 2000s. I think the AI era will be similar. I think the danger is around the investments that are being made in things where you're investing in buzzwords or people who are claiming value where really there isn't one. So whilst I don't like that embedded TikTok IDE, because it's an example of people who don't fundamentally understand how we work as humans, in my view, you're right. You've got to have these things, because for 100 things that are idiotic and inane and don't advance what we're doing as humans, you get maybe 5 which genuinely do, and they springboard off those. So yes, maybe we've got to have that wealth of nonsense to get the true jewels coming out.
I wonder if I took that IDE sort of idea with TikTok. Yeah. But if I said it wasn't TikTok in there and it was something else, right? Maybe it's my task list that's surfaced in there, or maybe it's a news video from YouTube, right? Or maybe
maybe it's an AI that's analyzing your code and suggesting, right, based on the architecture you've trained me in and that piece of code that you're working on at the moment, here's 4 related areas of directions you could go with this. Talk to me about those, and I'll suggest and have a conversation around those whilst I'm doing the code for that, and then you feed it back in, so it keeps you on top of it.
It would be great if it had my podcasts in there, right? So I could listen. Like, one of the things I do in between meetings, if I have like 5 minutes in between a meeting, I won't have enough time to start a task. but I have a list of like wrestling podcast clips on YouTube open. Of
course you do.
And I'll just sort of open one up and listen to it for a little bit and be like, okay, yeah, because again, 3 or 5 minutes isn't enough for me to start a real task. And so I'll just sort of have this thing where it's, okay, I'll just do this. So I think there is something to, like, there's this extra space at moments. Of course, people want to grab attention, right? So what can you fill that with?
Yeah, and I think it comes down to something we've talked about before on podcasts, which is ultimately how do you maintain flow state? So everything we're doing largely is about how do we maintain that phase where we're in the zone, we're operating at peak capacity, where we're productive without engaging our executive decision-making functionality. My concern is when you start to context switch, you drop out of flow state. But if you've got ways like, for example, having podcasts on in the background, which keep you focused on what you're doing because part of your brain is focused on it, but not all of it, then I think your flow state is focused on the task at hand, and that's the objective.
I think sometimes when I get into that flow state, right, which is for me mornings, and I'll just blast through 2 hours or 2.5 hours, it won't all be in one context. So at some points, I will sort of step out and look at an article real quick because I'll say, I'll think my brain for 30 minutes is really powered on something. And then I'll just need a little bit of a break for a second, and then I'll come back to it. Just a little bit of, like when people say, step away from the desk for a second and come back to it. That doesn't wreck my state. I think my state's actually more created because I have just a general amount of quiet time around me.
But I would argue you do drop out of flow state at that point, but that break in it then allows you to go back into it quicker and stay in it longer, whereas if you tried to stay in it consistently for a long time, you wouldn't be able to maintain it. So the breaks allow you to come back to it quickly and stay overall a longer period in that state.
I'm going back to the dopamine thing that you said, because I was talking to a couple people, I think it was last weekend, around the books The Molecule of More.
Okay.
And there's another book called Dose, which is dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and I forget what the E is for. Not epinephrine.
I can't remember.
But it is an interesting sort of, I don't know, attention-grabbing thing. I was listening to the Elon Musk, Joe Rogan interview, and he was talking about sort of the future of mobile phones and how you'll have this device in your pocket and you can pull it out and there's always TV made specifically for you. Then I connect that to looking at people in the Dubai metros watching their phone, where TikTok has the For You page. And it is just getting more and more and more into the movie that I just posted on LinkedIn.
Yes.
What was that? It was like Don't Die, Have Fun, something, like Sam Rockwell's newest movie where he comes back from the future and he's trying to warn everybody about the dangers of AI and all of this. And it looks like a brilliant dystopian comedy for those of you who haven't seen it. But yeah, you sort of, you do see the continual crumbling of society around you in a way, and you're like, I guess I'm okay with this. I don't know.
There's some things I am and some things I'm not.
Making me depressed at the moment.
So I choose what I watch specifically because of that. I love Black Mirror, but I watch Black Mirror and I come away with a happy view on life and things in general. So I was a big fan of The Good Life when that was out. Who was that guy from Cheers? That's a name I forget.
Ted Danson.
Yes, Ted Danson. So that was great. It was very, very sort of throwaway, sort of happy. You don't have to think too hard. So The Good Place, not The Good Life, The Good Place. There's a thing I started watching recently, which is Upload, which is about 5 years old now, which is interesting as an Amazon thing. It's very throwaway. It's not going to change your life, but it's actually quite upbeat. It's quite nice about if you upload your consciousness into a data center before you die, then heaven is there, and what does that look like? And of course, it's horribly capitalist driven. So if you've not got much budget, they put you down with the 2 gigs where you have so much bandwidth to use, and then they freeze you when it runs out and things. So it's quite fun, but there's things in that I quite liked. I started to pick out and say, I actually see our society sort of 10 years time taking things from this. It's interesting.
I mean, very much the whole Black Mirror thing. They had that episode where they brought somebody back. You pay the service for their brain to stay in this data center, but then they can throttle it up and down based on how much you're paying.
Yeah.
And you can see that coming. That is not a difficult one. And I'm working on this project at work right now that is looking at the future of wellness and longevity. So let's bridge over to that.
Yeah.
Because I think there was some interesting things that both of us can relate to. And I go back to that book, Dose, or The Dose Effect, I should say, for those of you who want to go out and get it. And it does talk about how do you help reset your dopamine? How do you help reset oxytocin, right? And a big part of it is how do you set up habits? And we have the book on the desk right now, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yikes.
What habits do you create in your own life that help regulate you or help, stick you on a positive mental health path? And one of the things that in the concepts that we created that I really, really loved, so many things like, the book Atomic Habits or The Power of Habits, they talk about 15 minutes a day for 30 days, you can create a habit. The thing that I always got stuck on and what we've put into these concepts is like, but what happens if I achieve this, right? So we have this whole idea of a what if simulator, of course, powered by AI, because why not? Everything is. And I really love this idea that like, what happens if I do these habits in 5 years time, in 3 years time, right? It's like the whole compounding interest for savings. You want to start saving in your 20s so you can retire by the time you're 50. And so many of these like applications, AI tools, health tools, task lists, all of these, they help you create habits, but they don't show you what it can lead to. And that's probably because it's medical advice or something and people don't want to give that due to insurance. Now that we have so much more with AI and so much more that you can project based on the data that you have, right? The reason that you and I work out is because like when we're 65, 70, we want to be able to walk and get around. We want to be able to hike, right? The reason why we think about what we're doing with our phones is, you in particular, you have a family, right? You have kids, you're thinking about what's going on there. For me, I want to maintain a level of sort of mental happiness and clarity that I don't necessarily see in other people who engage in these activities. And I have to have the wherewithal, and same with you, that we're looking out 5 years or 10 years from this point to say, the things that I'm doing now, the habits that I have, like eating a bunch of vegetables or going to the gym or learning Muay Thai, these aren't things I'm necessarily in love with. These are things that I believe will build me a better life over time. And so to tie this back to the beginning, we have all these wonderful tools, and the best that we can do is put TikTok in an IDE. And yet we could be doing so much more where I can look at health and longevity and wellness. And it goes back to one of our running themes here. It's like convenience will beat everything. We want to do things that are for the betterment of humanity, but in the end, we'll just call that grab driver and get our Papa John's pizza delivered anyway.
We're quite lazy. I think it's very hard to focus on goals which are quite far out. So 5, 10, 15 years out, it's very hard to focus on that because your reward, your gratification, it's very far out. You don't get it very quickly.
But do you think that's because of how we've used technology now? Like,
I think it gets worse.
20 or 30 years ago, you could imagine 5 or 10 years, right? People would say, I'm saving for a house that's 5 years down the road or a car. Now everything has to be more instant. And AI is making that even worse, right? With like video on demand and everything on demand. Yeah. And the fact is, we can't think 6 months, 12 months in the future. So why even try?
And we're training
Let's
ourselves
just be convenient now.
We're training ourselves to step away from it. And I think that's one of the dangers. It's why one of the words I said at the start around the courtesy we have is a direct symptom of how we're training ourselves to interact with other people. So we talk about chasing long-term goals becomes harder if you don't see early reward. Well, you have to give yourself what's your early reward. Is it about seeing if you're on losing weight and you're working out to lose weight? Is it about regularly measuring yourself on the scale and not expecting to see the result on day 1, day 2, day 3, but week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4? You will see results. So you start to set up that expectation rather than just beating yourself up because 2 days down the line you put on weight but you've been eating well, so you're like, what's the point? Well, set up your goal to be, I'm going to measure every week, but I'm every day, but I'm only going to see results after each week. And you put it on a graph or something, you see that. And then you do see the trends. The same thing, I think, with how we work with our environment as well, is not expecting to see these instant gratification results just because we can get dopamine hit by looking at TikTok or ticking a box on a list. We've got to set up a longer term view on things and set up longer term goals with short term aims. So how I tie that back to courtesy is that when we interact with AI, I speak for myself only. When I talk to my large language model, sometimes I'm quite nice to it, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I get quite angry with it and frustrated with it. And I can, because it will never bounce back at me with an appropriate response. So it trains me to talk to something on a screen, which will take me swearing at it when it does something stupid or something wrong or as misinterpreted something or added stuff in that I didn't give to it, which is the one that annoys me the most. If I start to train myself that that's a reasonable way of interacting, it will bleed out to the human engagements as well. Maybe not face to face, but maybe on a screen where I forget I'm talking to an AI, or maybe when I can't even tell, when I'm talking to a customer service bot and I'm like, is this AI? Is it not? And I've seen it where I've got close to thinking, well, you're frustrating me now. How do I respond to this? And thinking I need to rein myself in a little bit and just remember that sometimes these are people. So I think that I am seeing it bleed into general interaction in the world. A really good example is we're quite good at ghosting people when we message people on LinkedIn or outside on other platforms, that you'll send someone a message and they won't reply. And I feel for people at the moment. I know a couple of people who are job hunting at the moment, and I know what it's like when you reach out to somebody for a conversation. What you're trying to do is maintain your network and build connection, and people just, oh, there's nothing in it for me. I can't be bothered replying. So I've had a few mails this week where I can't help them at this point. I can't give them what they need, but I'll still reply and say, look, I've heard you. I'll keep an ear out and I'll see if there's something I can do to help. Because at least that way you make them feel that they're connected. And I think we've got this easy answer at the moment where we can just ignore people. The AI gives me what I want on tap, therefore I'll just go to it when I want something, and I don't need to reply for it. When it comes back with, do you want me to do this or do you want me to do that? I'll just ignore it. Don't even reply. Why would I? That behavior can bleed into real behavior, as I call it.
I'm trying to think where to respond, because there is so much in there, and I actually treat how I speak to AI in the opposite way. And this is because I used to get cranky at it after reading Mo Godot. I'm not sure where the emphasis on his last name is. His book, Scary Smart, a whole section of it is dedicated to how to think about AI right now as like a child. And when I started thinking about it that way, I was like, I can't be mean to it, right? It's like I can't remember where I heard this, but it was...
I beat my children as well.
Yeah. It was like, no matter how tough you are, when a 2-year-old hands you a phone and it's like, you pick up that phone call, right? And there is something about that when I started thinking of these, ChatGPT or Perplexity, Claude, in this way, I don't get angry at it, but I still do get angry at people.
That's interesting.
And it's because I feel like people are like, I know you're 40. I know that when the doors to the metro open, you let people out before you try to come in, right? And you're going to piss me off if you just rush right in when you're seeing people come out. Have some damn common courtesy, people. But with AI...
Before we go off on that, let me tell you the thing I have to keep reminding myself at the moment, particularly with people driving on the roads at the moment, is that the average IQ is 100. That means that half of the people in the world have an IQ significantly less than that. So a lot of the people you encounter on the road who do stupid things or stand in front of the metro doors when you're trying to get onto... They're probably not that smart. And when we talk to people, we tend to think they're the same level of intelligence as you are. They're probably not. And I have to keep reminding myself to cut people a bit of slack.
That's wonderful. That's my view on AI. I'm like, you're not that smart yet. You're trying your best. I do think common courtesy doesn't have to do with IQ, though. So it's I
have to go somewhere. So I think there is a mistake in anthropomorphizing AI, though, in that we treat it... So I don't agree with you treating it like a child.
Right.
I think it is a flawed tool at the moment that is capable of a lot, and we read into it that it's capable of more than it actually is. So I don't disagree with you that you should look how you treat AI, don't get me wrong. but I think it's more about what it reflects on you rather than achieving anything with the AI.
Say more on that.
So when I vent at the AI, I know it's not going to get me anywhere. All it's going to do is make me feel a bit better by exploding and venting and just getting my feelings out there so I can move on from them. So when it does, and it's usually when I ask it something and it's got some guardrail in there which says, I don't want to answer what you've asked me. I'm going to give you something else instead. And it's just often a random tangent. And I don't want to deal with that nonsense. So then I've got to bring it back to say, that's not what I asked you. Do this instead, which is what I asked you the first time. Then I get a bit cranky.
But do you think that's going to, like you said, bleed into other things?
Yeah.
When you can't tell, like on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
This was a great example from like a week ago. I met a guy who I'm looking for a jiu-jitsu coach. And I met a guy and he said, I'm going to connect you with my friend. I said, okay, cool. And so I write his friend and I said, hey, do you do one-on-one training? It's like, yeah. And then I just get this message. It's like, hey, bro, come on, let's train. And I'm like, okay. Sure. So I was like, well, tell me more about what you do one-on-one. Like, I'm part of this gym. I was like, oh, wait, so do you do one-on-one? Hey, bro, come on, let's train.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what the hell is... And finally, it kept... I thought it was a person, kept saying this, and I was like, dude, chill out. Like, and I was getting really sort of pissed. And then finally, I just started ignoring him. And I was like, okay, I'll archive the message on WhatsApp. And I talked to the guy who gave me his number, and I'm like, what is wrong with your friend? Like, he like... It honestly seems like something's mentally not correct with him. And he's like, oh, shit. He's like, they're testing this AI bot. And he's like, I think he's like, based on what you said, I think it's the AI mixing in with his thing. So it's like, it has the like WhatsApp business account where it'll do automatic replies. And all I could think was like, I've now archived. I was one step away from blocking this person because I thought, this is so bad. This is so horrible. And I'm just so pissed off at this person. And as soon as they said it was probably this AI bot, all I could think was like, oh man, now I feel bad. Like, but also the dangers of just like, don't do that.
Yeah. I had the other way around, which is worse, I think. It was a few weeks ago when I was trying to get this was midnight and I wanted to get a printed driving license. I think I told you about this. And I decided, we'll do this one there. So I was going back to the UK. I was thinking I need to rent a car there. I'm pretty sure they weren't going to... At midnight, I realised this. Midnight with my flight at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, I realised. They won't let me rent a car without a physical driver's license card. So I went online.
Wait, do you not have one here? How does that work?
They give you an electronic one by default.
Really?
You can order a physical one, but by default it's electronic.
I still have my Dutch driver's license. I never switched mine, so I don't know. Okay, that's interesting.
So the UK, I was thinking, they're going to want my UK one. That won't be valid because I live here, so I need the UAE one. I went online, I just wonder how quickly I can get one because someone had told me you can get one within 2 hours. I'm like, I could just about do that before I need to leave for the airport. But it's midnight. But I'll have a look. Had a look and it said, yes, you can get one, but you need to call this number. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll call the number and see what it is. It's going to be an automated service. So I call the number. 10 minutes later, they're like, okay, talk to us on the website. I'm like, you guys are just sending me around in circles now. So I went on the chat on the website and started talking to somebody there, and it was a bot responding. I'm like, and it got to the point where it said, yes, you can go and get a card. We have machines which print them out at 24 hours a day. I'm like, brilliant. And of course they do. It's Dubai. I'm like, where is the nearest one? And they kept telling me just basically you can print them out. Call this number to find out where. I'm like, okay, you're just telling me the same thing over and over again. It went around like this. They kept saying the same response. I kept responding in the same way, trying to get a different answer, which is just idiotic. So I started to get a bit snippy, saying, you're just telling me the same things. Tell me what I need, because they're not going to be open this time. And then they replied back saying, sir, they will answer the phone. It's a 24/7 hotline. I realized I was talking to a person, not a bot. And I was starting to get rude with them because I was getting frustrated with an AI. And I realized, it's not, it's a person. Now I feel bad. So then we had a conversation. It was okay. But I'm both surprised by Dubai having these level of services at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and that there's people there to actually courteously talk to you. I think that's probably a better model than AIs, which aren't necessarily answering your problems.
I think what we're getting to in this episode...
I don't know where we're going with this.
No. Well, so beyond the instant gratification dopamine aspect is how is our behavior... Well, this could go back to if we tried to tie everything together like we always do sort of at the end. I have this desire of instant gratification that is driven by technology that I have in my pocket.
Yep.
When things don't instantly gratify me, like your customer service example right there, I get cranky, right? And I get cranky because I don't believe I'm talking to a real person, and I can be somewhat
So it's okay.
abusive, to a bot, because you're like,
I wasn't that bad, just for the record.
Well, yeah, but you need to like blow off steam, right? You're like,
Yeah.
oh, Jesus, come on. And also when it's a bot, you almost feel there's like some right that you have to be cranky at it. But then
That's interesting.
Like, how is that shifting our overall, the way that we treat, just whether that's service workers or support or this, like how you treat fellow people.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, with my example of people coming in and out of the metro, it's like, how do you just think about someone else who is just trying to live their life when you get into your own bubble, instant gratification, give me what I want, convenience or death, all of these things. And it continues to erode the relationships and the reactions that you get from having messy human contact, human connection. You continue to remove that. And then we go back into, I need dopamine because I'm isolated. I'm isolated because I'm attached to this level of dopamine from this technology. It's a vicious circle. And it's all going to end up in that capitalistic dream where I upload my consciousness and then boom, it's going to throttle me and make everything look like 1990s Doom.
Yeah. Well, good.
There you go.
Thoughts.
I wrapped everything up together for you.
Impressive. Entitlement is my word that comes out of that. And I think Dubai is the capital of entitlement, where you are given everything you want, everything you can pay for, you can get here. And that's not necessarily a good thing. I think sometimes having to work for certain things is better for us as humans. So when we have a bot, it's a bit like having, in my mind, it's a tool. So if my hammer does not work, my hammer does not hammer a nail, I will throw it away and I will get another one. And we demand from our bots to be these all-knowing, all-sentient answer machines for us. So if they don't tell us what we want quickly, well, then my hammer is broken. Therefore, I'm right to be annoyed with it because I'll need to get another one. And when we blur the lines between bot and people through screens, through text, that sense of entitlement translates into our relationship with people. And I think we're starting to see it even when we know it's a person on the other end. Never mind where we're not sure whether it's an AI bot or a person. When we know that it's a person, that behavior, that entitlement is already starting to bleed through. And that's where I say that ghosting, whether it's in personal lives or in professional lives, is becoming an acceptable behavior. And I strongly don't think it is.
Well, this is something that goes back to, for those of you who listen to Scott Galloway, a lot of what he says, and he talks a lot about like behavior in the US, specifically with like young men, but just generally with things like how AI is changing relationships, right? That it is hard to go out and get rejected by somebody, right? So if you're trying to get a date, right? And if you just walk up to somebody at a bar, that rejection can be embarrassing, can be difficult, can be hard on your confidence.
Yeah.
But if you have AI to build a relationship with, you never have to suffer that rejection. Where I'm going with this is what you just said, that level of entitlement. Friction isn't bad.
Yeah.
In fact, friction is good because friction teaches you maybe patience. Friction teaches you, and we've talked about this before, I can gain that like in the Matrix, I can gain that skill of Kung Fu without having to pay the toll of it.
Yeah.
But paying the toll is what actually makes it a sort of valuable skill in people's eyes, because you have dedicated, you have persevered, you have put time and effort into something where everybody else stopped. You have pushed through that level of friction and pain and difficulty. And that is something that instant gratification, that looking at my phone all the time, that is continuing to erode. So if I look at all the dystopian side, it seems like where we're going on this side. If I look at all the dystopian aspects of just those two little examples at the beginning, the dopamine aspect of TikTok and the IDE when you're developing something, the person watching TikTok or Instagram Reels as they're walking through the Dubai metro, it's like those two little examples, as innocuous as they sound, are this larger metaphor to how friction and relationships and dynamics of human behavior have fundamentally changed, where I lack the ability to be happy because I'm going to continually sort of dive back into this easy dopamine hit. as opposed to going through the friction of learning a skill or building a friendship or whatever that might be. We are eroding that more and more through this. So that Y Combinator application, even though I was defending it at the beginning, that little thing may be the crushing reality. What is it? What do I want to say? The downward spiral of society.
Yeah. And
very dramatic.
But you put it into personal lives as well, because I'm largely thinking about how we act professionally, but personally, it's true. It's absolutely true. I think about why I don't like vibe coding is because
I thought you've been like defending this, but I feel like you use it because you know how to code.
Yeah.
And that's a different aspect than vibe coding, which is just like, I'm going to write a prompt and create something. And again, not paying the toll for the friction of understanding what code is and how to do it.
Yeah, I don't really vibe code, I think, is the thing. So I started off doing that, and I realized quite quickly there's problems with it, and you get something out the end, but it's not something that's very well structured or necessarily done well or set up in a way that you can build on it. So I pulled it right back to if your problem is from 0 to 100 and vibe coding says, well, I'll give you the whole solution. What I tend to do now is do sort of 0 to 5 or 5 to 10 and little snippets, and I use it as an accelerator to, sometimes I'm coding, sometimes I'm using it to auto-complete lines, sometimes I'm getting it to write like 10 lines at a go, but I'm never getting it to write 1,000 lines or 500 lines at a go. It's always in little bits that I put together. So I don't like vibe coding because I think you get this lack of thought that goes with it. It's the entitlement that comes with instant gratification that I've got a problem, give me the answer. Here's the answer, and it's big. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I don't really need to understand the answer. I've got the answer. That's all that counts. In the same way that you're saying that the journey is important as the actual destination because you know what the destination should be because you've gone on the journey, you don't know that end answer with vibe coding. You're saying, well, I think I know what the answer is, so get me there right now. And half the time we build things, we build solutions, we change that path along the way because we learn as we go. So the end where we get to might on the surface seem like it's the same place, but the reality is that those minor tweaks are what makes great products.
I think the way that we will conclude this today is, how do I want to frame this? That vibe coding can so perfectly encapsulate the idea that I get something without having to pay the toll, but that something is just surface level.
Yeah.
And we are confusing that with the actual skill in itself. And again, it goes back to what you just said, that little dopamine aspect. I wrote a prompt and it created a piece of interface, and I think that is actually an application. And I've been reading more articles on like UX 3.0 and all of this, and it just seems to scratch the surface of what great user experience is. Like vibe coding scratches the surface of what great engineering is. It is democratizing tools. It is allowing people to build more. But the problem is, as opposed to being a way to express, it is being a way to sort of grift and get things done quickly. And that's not going to lead to anything positive. So we have these great tools, but we are using them in a way that really don't benefit us.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Sounds good. Do you know, I'll give you one very quick analogy that just made me think of it. It'd be like if I took you at age 15, describe your life to me. By the time you get to age 60, you're age 15, tell me what that's going to look like. And you've got 20 minutes to write it down. What you described then would probably be a life. It probably wouldn't be a bad life. But would it be anything like the life that you've actually gone through by living it, by taking that journey and making decisions along the way? I would say one is a lot more richer and a lot more unpredictable and a lot more unguided than the other. And that to me is far more interesting than just give me the instant off the pat answer.
There's a lot that we can unpack there, but we got to go. So
next time.
Dunbar, I'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
Cool.